Forget everything you think you know about 2023's gaming trends. Sure, it was a year of hype. Flying cars promising virtual vacations. Fancy headsets whispering immersion like a forbidden word. But amidst the noise, something incredible happened. Something real. 10 trends emerged, not just shiny bells and whistles, but shifts in the very DNA of gaming. Trends that redefined how we play, who we play with, and why we play at all. Trends that whispered not of pixels and processors, but of stories whispered in the controller's rumble, of communities forged in shared worlds, of joy rediscovered in the simplest pixelated smile. Ready to ditch the hype and see the gaming revolution that truly mattered? Dive in. This is 10 gaming trends of 2023 that were actually good. And trust me, good wasn't even close. We will start with the rise in survival horror games. Since Resident Evil 7 gave the survival horror genre a boost a few years ago, it has been steadily growing, and this culminated in what may be one of the finest years the genre has ever seen. Beyond that, other, less well-known games impressed in their own right as well, like System Shock's remake, which might not be outright survival horror but has plenty of the genre's DNA. Amnesia, The Bunker, and more. Sure, we saw some spectacular megatons in the form of games like Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, and Alan Wake, which will go down in memory as some of the best survival horror experiences of all time. In the meanwhile, there are a ton of other terrifying experiences available for horror enthusiasts, such as the PSVR 2 edition of Resident Evil Village, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and World of Horror. A high demand of excellent remakes and remasters. The video game industry has always had a particular fondness for remakes and remasters, so even while this isn't exactly a new trend, we were nonetheless delighted to see how many fantastic games we were able to re-examine in various formats this year. Of course, one of the most notable games of the year was Resident Evil 4, but Dead Space from Motive Studio and EA is also undoubtedly among the finest titles we've played this year. The outstanding remake of Metroid Prime by Retro Studios was also released in January. Considering Nintendo's history with remasters, this one was a much more comprehensive and technically astounding update than most would have expected. There was no lack of classics making a triumphant comeback to the spotlight with titles like a Dragon, Ishin, Advance Wars 1+2, Reboot Camp, Super Mario RPG, Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective, Risk of Rain Returns, and Star Ocean, the second story R. Now people want shorter, condensed experiences in gaming. While there were undoubtedly still a lot of large, multi-hour experiences in 2023, there were also a lot of delightfully shorter and more condensed ones. In recent years, complaints about games becoming bloated and unwieldy to the point of being off-putting have become louder. A prime example of that is Marvel's Spider-Man 2, a high-budget movie that takes place on an open-world map and nevertheless manages to fulfill all of your demands for top-notch entertainment in the course of just 20 to 25 hours. Please say yes. Industry of games, keep doing it. Furthermore, it wasn't the first game to use that approach. A number of the year's other highlights, such as Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, Pikmin 4, The Talos Principle 2, and Hi-Fi Rush, were also noticeably more compact experiences without being unsatisfactorily short. We also had Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, which was very much intended as a shorter intercal of sorts. Next, we will talk about Shadow Drops. Nothing irritates gamers more than excessively protracted game pre-release marketing cycles. The prevailing consensus is that there should be as little time between announcement and release as possible. What's even better than that, despite the fact that it often defies corporate logic, is Shadow Falls. Indeed, we don't see many of these since they go against sound business judgment, but in 2023 there were a considerable number that drew attention. On example, in January alone, we saw the simultaneous announcement and release of Metroid Prime Remastered and Hi-Fi Rush. A few months later, Nintendo also quietly launched the HD remasters of Pikmin 1 and 2 on the Switch, along with a fantastic F-Zero 99. In the meanwhile, the excellent Quake 2 re-release from Night Dive Studios and Machine Games was released on the same day as its announcement in August. Next, we will discuss current-gen exclusives. The fact that publishers and developers have continued to release games for the £4 and Xbox One so late in the generation, many of which have actually been among the most significant, has long been a source of frustration for many. But in 2023, we finally saw a slowdown in this flow. Several high-profile games released in the last several months were exclusive to current-generation gaming platforms. After the last several years, it was a welcome change of pace that numerous games, including Dead Space, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Starfield, Forza Motorsport, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Alan Wake 2, Final Fantasy XVI, and many more, were not launched as cross-gen titles. I hope this becomes the standard moving ahead, since it's about time we saw what the console hardware of the current generation is really capable of and what it can enable developers to create. Another trendy demand is the continued resurgence of portable gaming. Over the last 10 years, there have been significant changes to portable gaming. Although the path ahead of the 3DS and PS Vita generations seemed very difficult, the Nintendo Switch breathed new life into the genre in a manner that nobody could have predicted. In actuality, it has only become stronger as of 2023. The Switch has not only kept up its impressive release schedule, nor its hardware and software sales, which have exceeded expectations for a Nintendo system in its 7th year of existence. The Steam Deck has also gained more traction as it continues to grow, and Valve has even released an OLED model of the device recently. Furthermore, further competitors have entered the market, such as the Asus ROG Ally and Lenovo Legion Go, further solidifying the market position of portable gaming. And things will probably get better yet, since there are rumors that the Switch 2 will be released in the second half of 2024. Next trend that we will discuss is 90+ Metacritic games. It's not often that games get the type of unqualified and widespread acclaim from reviewers needed to reach the 90-point level on Metacritic, but a record number of games in 2023 have succeeded in doing exactly that. In reality, 2023 has the most titles ever with 90+ Metacritic scores, with 26 games having a score of 90 or above on at least one platform. Also, there is a fair amount of diversity within that group. Notable mega releases include Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Baldur's Gate 3, and The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Smaller independent games like Cocoon, Turbo Overkill, Videoverse, and Sea of Stars are among them. With titles like Resident Evil 4, Metroid Prime Remastered, Quake 2, Enhanced Edition, and Tetris Effect, connected PS VR 2 Edition, you have remasters, remakes, and releases. Some expansions have even received this kind of broad praise: Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Future Redeemed both have Metacritic scores of 90 or above. Lastly, we will talk about EA's renewed focus on single-player. Live service and multiplayer-centric trends have sparked the ire of many over the years, and there was a time, of course, when EA was the biggest offender on that front, to the extent that the company was frequently and explicitly outright hostile towards the idea of making single-player-only games. Even though EA received a lot of criticism for that for a long time, we must give credit where credit is due, since it has been wonderful to see the company's increased emphasis on single-player, narrative-driven games. Dead Space, Star Wars Jedi, Survivor, and Immortals of Avium were all published by EA in 2023 alone. Based on what the business has planned for many studios, additional games are expected in the future. In addition to BioWare's ongoing production of new entries in the Dragon Age and Mass Effect franchises, Iron Man and Black Panther single-player action-adventure games have been announced to be in development at Motive Studio and Cliffhanger Games. Which trend caught you off guard the most? Did we overlook any undiscovered jewels deserving of recognition? Talk about your expectations, personal highlights from the previous year's games, and your comments. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more exciting content on the latest gaming trends, reviews, and everything in between.